Howdy, people. Do you like Pokemon? Don't worry. This is a safe space. There's nothing to worry about here. They can't get us here. Pokemon has been in a controversial spot for like a little bit. Lots of people, including myself, have felt that the series has really nosedived into uninteresting, pretty bland, regurgitated content. And that's such a sad thing for me to say because I have such fond memories of this series. I remember when my older brother got a 3DS and I received his magical old DS. It was dark blue and I put a Skylander sticker on there that was like really sticky and I still don't think it's come off. And man, I played the heck out of that thing, with one of the games he gave me being Pokemon Diamond. And the hours I put in that game, I probably haven't rivaled it in recent time. I don't think I actually ever beat the game, but man, I sure played a lot of it. And when I got my 3DS, I got to play even more Pokemon games, and I played all the 3DS Pokemon games to death. Omega Ruby, Moon, Ultra Sun, I was just into everything Pokemon at that time. And then Sword came out and my opinion changed, but well, whatever, I'm not talking about that. Because today, we are talking about another kind of Pokemon game. Let's talk about some Pokemon spin-offs. Nowadays, Pokemon doesn't really have any spin-offs besides the Legends games, I guess. But those are pretty similar to the base games anyway, so they just have like a slightly different gameplay style. There have been some in the modern era, but they're mostly from like the most popular spin-offs of the last generation, such as the new Pokemon Snap, or the Detective Pikachu sequel, or the new Mystery Dungeon. But even now, speaking in the year 2026, those came out a little bit ago. Which is crazy, because from like the N64 to the DS/Wii era, they were pumping out spin-off games like crazy. So many classics, like the original Mystery Dungeon games, or the Rumble series, or the Ranger series, and even stuff like Hey You Pikachu. These were not small one-offs, these were big series. Well, Hey You Pikachu was a spin-off, because I think Pikachu, I think he did something evil, but that's not the point. Oh, and I remember just going to GameStop and looking in that little DS case they have, and I wanted like the Ranger series and Dungeon series so bad because I didn't know what they were. But alas, I was a broke child, so I couldn't buy them. Actually, that is not true. I did own one Pokemon spinoff, and it was my favorite by far. Probably because it was the only one I owned, but that's fine. One series with only 2 entries, and one that hasn't received any modern attention to my knowledge. Which is a shame because, you know, let's first talk about PokePark was created by Creatures Inc., a subsidiary company of Game Freak, and all they're really known for is making all the spin-off games that I mentioned before. However, they were a company before Creatures Inc. called Ape Inc. Oh, I wonder what these guys helped co-develop. Oh, wow. Anyway, besides that insane credit, these guys have pretty much been making Pokemon for decades, with the original PokePark coming out in 2010 in America, and its sequel, PokePark 2 Wonders Beyond, coming out in 2012 in America. But how did I get involved with this not very known spin-off franchise? Well, I already explained how I got into Pokemon, and from there on out, me and my brother were always hooked on the series. We watched the anime. We would play all the new games. Well, actually, he played all the new games and I got all the hand-me-downs, but still, we collected cards. And of course, we had to play some of the spin-offs. Now, like every child growing up in the early 2010s, I owned a Wii. Because, I mean, you see? And while I don't remember when we got the game, all I know is me and my brother played the crap out of PokePark. To the point where my mom has always said how annoying that game was for her to watch because she hated all the annoying Pokemon sounds. All you need to know is I've played both these games over and over again. To the point where on this most recent playthrough, it felt like seeing an old friend who, really hasn't changed or done anything new with his life. Probably because he's a video game for the Wii from 2010 and 2012. But still, it felt like coming home. I remembered the areas, the fights, the characters. It was just all the same. The flood of nostalgia that I got back playing these games again was crazy. So today, we're gonna go back over the PokePark games and just talk about them. See if they hold up or if I was just a weird child. Now, disclaimer, this most recent playthrough was played on an emulator simply because I do not own a capture card, and also because if I played on the Wii, it would look a little crappy. You know, hate to the Wii, it's not the best looking console. But that's the only reason, is because I didn't want to buy a capture card, and the Wii is a little behind now. I own these games, Nintendo. Please don't hurt me. Here's proof I own the game. But with all that said, where is a better starting point than... PokePark is a game for children, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. There are plenty of games rated E that are mature and able to be played for all ages. Simply put, PokePark is a game for children to learn how to play video games. It's very simple, and honestly, it's probably better this way. The game doesn't need to be some magnum opus of game design, it just needs to be fun for little kids. Like here's an example. The story legit just starts. And not like how a regular story starts. No, I mean it just gets straight into the action. Pikachu is walking in like, I don't know, one of those weird suburban neighborhoods that upper middle class people live in. And he's walking with his starter buddies. They find like a hole, jump down it, and get split up. The story is now to find your friends. No introduction to who these friends are, no explanation of what this weird neighborhood is, no explanation why the heck there's a hole in the ground, because we're not trying to analyze those things here. We just need a story that's easy for children to understand. Another example that this game is for children, this game helped me learn to read. I specifically remember being a small child playing this game and sounding out all the Pokemon text whenever I was talking to them, which in turn is a big reason to why I can read. So, I guess you could say this is not the game for the most mature of audiences. So the question is, if you're not a small child, is this game still enjoyable? Yeah, I would say so. It probably helps that I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, but I don't know, I still find it kind of fun. The core of the gameplay is split into two parts: making friends and playing mini games. And there's like some puzzles here and there around these little areas, but that's not really that important. As you traverse the 5 areas in the game, you will meet all sorts of Pokemon. Easily my favorite part of this game is just finding all these Pokemon in their own environment and befriending them. And there was definitely thought putting each Pokemon in each specific area. Sometimes Pokemon can be in quirky little spots that you would expect them to be. And sometimes they're just in their elemental area that you go, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think Macargo would be in the ice area. Anyway, you befriend the Pokemon by playing skill games with them, which pretty much boils down to playing chase with them or battling them. There are other skill games like quizzes and hide and seek and obstacle courses, but mainly you're gonna be chasing and battling. You can make these games easier or actually possible by upgrading Pikachu in the hub area, in which you get these cute little cutscenes that I always really liked. It actually made it feel like Pikachu was getting stronger as he did better and better in every single one of his little training montages. Also, I like how the currency to buy the upgrades is berries, and they specifically look like Oran berries from the game. I thought that was kind of cute and made sense canonically for Pokemon. They would probably scrounge up berries and it would be important for them to have. Anyways, as for the games themselves, we've got a decent bag here. Chases, I mean, you chase the Pokemon. Hide and seek could be difficult, but often the Pokemon are just in plain sight. Quizzes are really simple, but sometimes they have pretty niche questions about Pokemon, and obstacle courses aren't that hard, but having to use the Wiimote is pretty hard. Seriously, the control scheme for this game on the Wiimote is whack. I know playing with pointer controls would be really hard on this thing, but seriously, the D-pad on the Wiimote is really tiny and not that fun to use. Even when I was a kid, I remember fudging over multiple buttons and it was just really hard to use. But the best of them all is easily the battles. While they are still pretty easy, like I don't think I lost a single battle this entire playthrough, they sure feel cool. I love shocking Pokemon with Thunderbolt and dashing into them, it's super fun. However, as soon as you get Iron Tail, that move is pretty busted. It kind of just breaks everything because nothing in this game is immune to Iron Tail. So, and it also makes the dash kind of irrelevant because it's stronger than the dash. So I think they need to nerf the Iron Tail in PokePark for the Wii 2010. Another cool aspect of the combat is that Pokemon can actually be hit by super effective moves. It's definitely not always correct, but it's a fun trait carried over from the main series. Also, it will be developed more in the sequel, so I mention it now. It's a literary device. It's called foreshadowing. So just and as you progress deeper into the game, you actually start fighting bigger and bigger Pokemon that become a little more tough. And those battles actually can be challenging and difficult. I know I got tripped up as a kid. So once you finally conquer this Pokemon in their little game, you become their friend, which I always liked as a kid. I wanted to be best friends with all the Pokemon, and I really liked that they still want to be my friend after I absolutely And also another benefit of befriending them is that you get to use them in the mini games, which is actually a transition into mini games in this game kind of suck. Like, they're a fine aspect of the game, but they're ultimately really repetitive. And when the core of the game is the mini games instead of the cool Pokemon battles, I need them to be good. Let me elaborate real quick. In each area of the game, there's about 1 to 3 mini games that you can play. They're often skills based, with you trying to get a better score or a better time. And you've got to play every single game at least once to finish the story. It's a fine concept in nature, but I think this really doesn't work for me because I'm not like a high score fan. I never really enjoyed just trying to get a higher score or a quicker time. It's just not how I like to play games. And secondly, like I mentioned before, the games are just way too repetitive. The games are often shoot the target or hit the target or win a race or swing on some tentacles or fly through some ring. There's change in scenery and the games will change up the slightest bit, but I could not help but notice how repetitive and samey a lot of the mini games felt, which is not something I noticed recently. I remember in my last playthrough, I thought these were all unique and different. It was only on this most recent playthrough that I noticed just how repetitive they are, because they're the crux for the story. Instead of having to make X amount of Pokemon friends, it's just you have to beat one of every single one of these. And while it's a cool concept to use all the friends you make in the mini games, it's not that cool in execution. It's interesting that some Pokemon will be better at some things than others. Like beefier Pokemon will be able to slash through walls, or Pokemon who like hang out in trees will be able to swing better. But at the end of the day, it's just not that cool at all. You do all this fun battling and chasing just for the reward to be you get to play some kind of boring mini games. And some of them are cool, but it's definitely overshadowed by how many more are boring. Maybe they were repetitive because of budget constraints or hardware constraints, because the Wii was a toaster, so it couldn't really run anything. But then again, I mean, it's not that hard to make varied games, and DVD discs can hold a lot of information, but for whatever reason, it's a total letdown for making friends in PokePark. And with that, we've basically covered the core gameplay aspects of PokePark. And that was basically all I paid attention to as a kid, was the gameplay. But on this most recent playthrough, I noticed a lot of cool stuff about this game that made me appreciate it a lot more. Aspects I simply would have never noticed as a kid. So let's talk about some of those cool things. I've got to give a lot of credit to the team here for making these 3D models of all the Pokemon. Like, you have to remember, when this game came out, they were still on pixel art. So that means, for this game specifically, all these pretty in detail models had to be made. And they couldn't just steal models from the previous games. Seriously, if you compare these models to their 2D sprites, I think they did a great job adapting them, especially as some of the only people up to this point who had to adapt models into 3D. However, the trade-off is that most of these Pokemon really don't have an identity in their moves. Like, a lot of the moves in this game look very similar making way too many Pokemon feel the exact same. Pretty much any flying type Pokemon you will fight will have this weird Brave Bird move where they go up in the air and they dash down towards you. And like, seriously, we couldn't give flying type Pokemon any other move. But again, the adaptation to 3D was a lot of work, I bet. And it's a spin-off game, and there's over 100 Pokemon in here. So after making the models, I doubt they had all the time in the world to give them unique feeling moves. Also, on the topic of models, the graphics in this game are pretty impressive, especially for what it was working on. If you guys didn't know, the Wii was pretty much just... It was the worst. It was pretty much just a GameCube with just the slightest better hardware. And then they threw in a sensor bar and a weird controller, and they're like, that's our product. So for them to get a whole kind of open zone game with a controller scheme, like I said earlier, that works, it's pretty impressive. And the graphics in this thing aren't that bad. They're for sure simple, but I think the developers did a great job making every area feel unique and fun despite the simple graphics. Feels more like an art style choice than a hardware limitation. You've got your grassy area, you've got your water area, and your rock area, and your ice area, and your fire area, and your ghost area, and hey, wait a minute. But seriously, I love the identity each area gets, with the Pokemon who live in those areas being Pokemon you'd probably expect to live in this environment. It's just a cool sense of world building. And I want to give a special shout out to the last area of this game, which is by far the coolest and most interesting. The Granite Zone, which is this cool Greek-like temple that pretty much stacks towards the clouds. And then that transitions into this super graceful sky garden with all these mythical Pokemon up there. It gives off such a heavenly presence. I didn't think you could ever make Rayquaza seem this chill and cool. And then all that transitions you into this eerie yet calming sky pavilion. I just think the fact that they kind of break away from the Pokemon type theming of each area really helped here. Because the Granite Zone is super cool and unique and not something I feel like we really see in Pokemon too much. And also complementing each of these areas is the music in this game. The music isn't like the most grand thing ever. We're not talking about one of the best video game scores of all time. But for a kid's game, I think this OST is great. In fact, it's probably playing in the background right now. Let's listen in.
Hey guys, sorry I forgot my microphone. No, it's not playing in the back because this OST is kind of loud and it didn't really work in the background. So I put other Pokemon music in. Yeah, I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.
These are just fun, simple tunes that are unique to each area. Tunes so catchy that on my most recent playthrough, I would show up to an area and just start humming it because it was just ingrained into my head from when I was a child. So yeah, we've got no magnum opus of music here, but I think what the music does best is really help set the mood of each area. Whether walking through grasslands or chilling on an iceberg or going to a haunted house, the music does a great job complementing each area. And finally, the last compliment I really want to talk about is the post-game for this game. That's right, even though this game's only like 5 hours long, there is kind of a post-game. Once you complete the game, scatter around the world, you can find codes to input on the main menu that will unlock legendary Pokemon in a bunch of areas. And that's cool enough, but I just need to ask the question, when did we, as a society, get too good for secret codes in video games? A bunch of games used to have secret codes in places and you would get cool rewards. Like I said, you get to interact with literal legendaries from these games. Oh, but no, secret codes are not grounded or cool enough for modern day. It literally blew my mind as a kid being able to fight Groudon because I found his secret code on the internet because I was too lazy to find it in the game. Don't shame me, my deeds will be given to me one day at the pearly gates. But so much of the excitement came from the fact that it felt so hidden and elusive and I had just stumbled across a secret. So what the heck is wrong with having codes in your games now? Why, are there no more cool instruction manuals to hide the codes in anymore? Because as we turn more away from physical media media, we actually don't start owning the products we have anymore, but rather borrowing them, and we don't own anything by ourselves anymore. Remember in Metal Gear Solid, where you had to open up the manual and the lady was there from the codec? That was the coolest thing ever. Where are things like that anymore? Why are we ruining video games? Why are we trying not to be cool anymore? Let's make them fun again. Add more secret stuff to your video games. It doesn't even need to be a code. Just add cool secret stuff. Remember when that secret was found in Shadow of Colossus and it was like behind a door? It was like the coolest thing ever. It's cool in this game. It would be cool in other games. And I think we should do it more. Woo, man. What was that? What was that job? PokePark. Oh yeah. I think I've said my piece about the game. A staple in my childhood for sure. I have so many memories of playing this game and exploring around and hanging out with my brother while we played the game. It was one of the first games I ever got obsessed with. And along with Pokemon Diamond, it's probably one of the main reasons I was such a big Pokemon fan as a child. And like I said at the beginning, I think it's just a great video game for children to play. Like, yeah, it's not too complex, and on the most recent playthrough I had, I wasn't having as much fun as I did when I was 4, but also I am a grown man now, and it's just not really made for me anymore. Wasn't really that challenging to me, but it was when I was a young kid. The exploration is a little limited to me now, but when I was a kid, it was such a huge game all around. It simply is a game that shows children how a video game can function and be so fun. And even though it wasn't challenging, I had fun on my most recent playthrough at points. And I'm just very happy it could be so important to me as a child. It's simple, but its beauty is within that simplicity. That being said, I always like the second one more. Yeah, the second one's better. Out of no fault to the original either, this is simply just a really good sequel. I would say it improves on almost all fronts of the original. It's simply cut the fluff of the first one that I didn't find that enjoyable and has filled it with new fun stuff. Now, I'm not going to repeat myself because this game does feature the same core concept and ideas as the original. Like, you still have to play skill games to make friends, and they are the same games as before. You're just going to multiple areas to solve problems and using all the currency you gather from those things to upgrade your Pokemon and progress the story. But it's the way the game tackles things differently that makes the game much more engaging. Like, notice how before when I was talking about upgrading Pokemon, I said Pokemon. Plural. Because easily the biggest change this game made is now there are 4 playable characters, who each have their own abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. This makes so many aspects of the game change drastically. Sometimes you have to return to a previous area to use another one of your Pokemon abilities that you got somewhere else. As well, it makes battles more dynamic. Remember how I said in the original that they kinda had type advantages? Well, it was hard to do type advantages because you only had one Pokemon typing that you were playing as. But in this game, since you have 4 choices, who are 4 different types, you're going to want to choose wisely before you battle Pokemon. Oshawott, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, these are all Gen 5 starters, probably as Gen 5 propaganda since a lot of the game also features a lot of Gen 5 Pokemon. And Black 2 and White 2 were right around the corner from releasing, so this game just served more as a promotion for those games kinda, but whatever, Gen 5 is dope, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, someone like Oshawott will rule against a ground type, but not against electric type. Is it simple? Yeah, but it adds a lot more strategy to the game, as well as making it feel more like a real-time Pokemon game. Stuff like this is what makes the game a really good sequel to the original. It makes the admittedly repetitive original a lot more fresh and replayable. This isn't just in combat too, this is an exploration all the time. Besides returning to areas like I mentioned before, sometimes you'll have to think a lot harder because you'll have to go, oh, I have to use this Pokemon's ability here. Therefore, you get a more rewarding puzzle system. Feels like you have to think a little more than just being like, well, Pikachu's the only one I have, so I gotta use him. Another example of this game just improving is the combat in this game is just a whole lot better. In the original, you could stun lock the other Pokemon pretty quickly and then just dash into them or Iron Tail. In this game, it's a lot harder to stun the other Pokemon, but when you do, there's a lot more reward. Because in this game, there's a dash combo that does a bunch of damage. The problem is, it leaves you pretty vulnerable when you do it on a Pokemon that's not stunned. So now, when you stun, you can get the high damage dash combo in instead of having to risk running in and taking damage. It's just little changes like that that add so much more flavor to the game. Other things, the Pokemon in this game that you befriend can actually help you in battle. This is mainly because the Pokemon you befriend are now no longer usable in mini games, which I'll get into in a little bit. So their decision to make befriending Pokemon, matter is that you can now use them in battle. When you're low on health, you'll see a little Pokemon pop up in the corner, and if you press A, boom, they'll show up and they'll do one of their moves, which gives you more reason to make friends. And also, since this game has much better move variety in the Pokemon you fight, so when you actually summon them, it feels like you're, using a different Pokemon instead of fighting the same Pokemon 1,000 times. See, it's just all these little changes they make that make the game so much better to play. It's a very basic combat system, yes, but it's much more advanced than the original, where you just use Thunderbolt and then Iron Tailed or dashed. Also, again, these games are for very young children. I'm over here analyzing the combat system that my 4-year-old cousin could probably understand. But I'm more just amazed at how much the team really seemed to care with improving the series. They could have easily squeaked out another game that was extremely similar to the original and made some easy money. But the effort they took to make changes is really apparent and appreciated. I mean, heck, there is even an actual story this time. Yeah, remember Pikachu falling into that random hole in that void neighborhood? Well, no more. The game just begins with he's Pikachu, he's kind of just walking around, I guess. He's got his bro Piplup and no one else. I don't know what happened to Chikorita and Charmander, but I'm hoping the best for them. Actually, I think Chikorita and Charmander might not be his friends. You can talk to Burmy at one point in this game, and he talks about Pikachu from another land, so it's possible in this game this is a different Pikachu in PokePark, even though he's friends with Piplup, but I mean, I guess Pikachu, there could be more than one Pikachu friends with Piplup. So canonically, in the PokePark universe, this could be a different Pikachu than the Pikachu we played in the first game, but also he seems to have some similarities to the one in the first game. So maybe Burmy's stupid? How did Burmy get all the way over here? I can understand Pikachu moving. How the heck does Burmy move? I don't know the lore of these games. I don't know. Anyway, Pikachu and Piplup hear about an attraction, Wish Park, and go through this magic portal to get to it. And in Wish Park, they bring back the mini games. There are only 4 of them now, but I would say they're all unique and pretty dang fun. I maybe kinda wish there were like 1 or 2 more, cause 4 feels really short compared to the first one. But hey, I guess we don't have a bloated roster anymore, so you gotta take what you get. Also, they're all multiplayer compatible now. I don't know what that multiplayer looks like, cause I never played it as a kid, but just know, you can play knockoff Just Dance with Pokemon on the internet on the Wii with someone in the world now. So that's pretty sweet, man.
Hey guys, what's up? It's me again. Actually the Wii servers got shut down in like 2014, so I'm really sorry, guys. You can't play anymore. Jesus, this world is so cruel.
Anyway, back to the story. Everyone in Wish Park seems to be in some sort of trance, and after playing the first minigame, this mysterious shadow hand tries to kidnap you and ends up kidnapping Piplup! He's always going through so much, man. Leave poor Piplup alone. So now, you and Ashwa, I forgot to mention Ashwa went to Wish Park with you as well, and all the other pals you find on the way have to solve what Wish Park is and how to save everybody from it. It's a pretty simple premise, but I was intrigued at some moments. It's weirdly kind of a detective story, which I thought was pretty fun. Suck it, Detective Pikachu. This is a real detective Pokemon game. And I think a big point helping it is that this game has an actual villain. And may I say, Darkrai is an excellent villain for a Pokemon game. He is just an evil freaking Pokemon that I think works great in the position of being an evil villain. And the story in this game's so good, it even leads to a post-game, like an actual post-game, not just looking around for signs. And this post-game has a bunch of legendaries for you to fight. Again, not just find codes for, you actually have to unlock them and fight them. And now, for the last part of where this game is just a lot better, let's talk about the technical aspects. I think this game outshines the original in almost every way technically. The graphics still remain the same pretty much because, well, the Wii, but I think the level design here is a lot more interesting. Lots of the new areas in this game are reused, but just have better ideas embedded into them. For example, both these games have a fire area, but one is just kind of a basic volcano rock area, while the other is a fort that scales up and feels ancient. Or the ice areas. One is just kind of a standard glacier, while the other is a coliseum on a mountainside. A coliseum that you can actually fight in, may I say. Finally, look at the beach area. One is a legit just standard beach, while the other is a cool cove town that the hub world blends into. All these concepts are just a lot more interesting than ice area, rock area, fire area. And when it comes to original locations, oh boy. I really like the old Coliseum feel of the Granite Zone, but nothing is cooler than the tech area in this game, where you start in this old train yard that moves into this giant warehouse that then moves into this secret science area. Are you freaking kidding me? This is awesome. Also, the color scheme of the train yard is just gorgeous, and it easily has the best music track in the entire series. Actually, as a whole, the music in this game is a lot better than the original. It still features the same catchy tunes, but I'd say a lot more of the tracks are more advanced. Feels like there's actually a lot more going on in the track rather than just a simple little tune. And that right there kind of envelops the whole point I'm making. PokePark 2 is just the original, but better. It just develops on most of my problems from the original and tweaks them or fixes them. It's still not perfect. For one, it's a kid's game at the end of the day, so it still has some of the problems that the original had, like being too easy or being a little too limited. And some aspects of the game carried over from the original don't blend that well. Like, for example, upgrading all 4 of your Pokemon feels kinda useless, since regardless, some Pokemon are obviously better at some actions than others. Like, what's the point in upgrading Oshawott Dash? Because no matter what, Snivy's always going to be faster than him. So why do they give me the option to upgrade Oshawott Dash? When am I ever going to use it? Also, it makes you kind of just upgrade one Pokemon and use that one Pokemon for specific things. Like in my playthrough, Pikachu kind of became my main fighting Pokemon, Snivy obviously became my choice Pokemon, and Oshawott became whenever I needed to solve a water puzzle, and Tepig didn't do anything. I abandoned my boy.
Abandoned my Tepig. I've abandoned my Generation 5 starter.
But stuff like that I can live with. This is a really good kids game, even better than the original. It gives kids a fun combat system that has so much more openness than the original, and even more fun open world to explore with tons of little secrets and collectibles. And it has a cute, quaint story that shows the power of friendship. It's not a gaming masterpiece, but I really have a lot of nostalgia for it. I would like to talk a lot more about it, but ultimately I just repeat a lot of what I said about the original game. Just know this game is just a lot better. It's a really nice game that I have a lot of nostalgia for. It's easy to look back on things from your childhood and be disappointed. I have looked back at many things from my childhood that I really liked, and they did not hold up to my modern standards. So when I decided to make this video, there was a part of me deep down within that was very scared. I had very fond memories of these games and really didn't want to ruin that strong nostalgia. And luckily, for the most part, I would say it didn't. Nostalgia is a heck of a power, and it would have been very easy for me to walk in here and say that this thing is butt and has no redeeming factors and is stupid and stinky. And ultimately, I just didn't find that to be true. With the state Pokemon is in right now, the slam dunk is to crap on everything else they have made and point out the lack of creativity. Pokemon has never been original, they've never made anything good, they've always been a crappy company, and people are only just realizing it now. And while these games are no masterpieces, that statement is simply just not true. They've got flaws, and there is no doubting that. But after all this time, I would say the PokePark games have held up surprisingly well. And though some of that is behind nostalgia glasses for me, I truly think these are excellent kids games that use the Pokemon IP to its greatest extent. If you've ever played these games, go out and try them. Go out and find a copy and dust off that old Wii. Or use Dolphin like I did. They're both less than like 8 hours, and there's fun to be had for sure. It's one of those series that has faded in the background right now in Game Freak's long history. And that's fine. Not everything Game Freak has to do has to be Pokemon. I think they should focus on new things. Like that one new game they showed, that game looks really cool. But also, if we can bring back Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, can't we give a little love to PokePark? It's got a lot of charm, and I just want more people to remember it. It held a deep place in my childhood, and I will forever cherish that. But seriously, one of these games with Switch 2 graphics, I'm saying it would sell a lot, Nintendo. Call me. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. I've done the jump rope minigame in Mario Odyssey. I've beaten Red in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I've found like 40 Korok seeds. Nintendo, I'm the new man you're looking for. I'm gonna run a company. Bowser's not in my name, but I could change my name to put like, I could be like Isaac Goomba. That's a name.